Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to hear how you're feeling at this moment. Premiere coming in the US very soon.
Hi, Sree. Yeah, thanks for talking. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's hugely exciting for this film to start screening in America. Obviously, we live in a time in the industry when it's not a given you get to show your film there and get distribution. I'm also aware that this is a particular kind of film. It's a Shakespeare adaptation in the language with this kind of cultural specificity. It's not on surface, on paper, a super kind of like super commercial or kind of, universal piece. So I'm just thrilled that through, amazing distributors, who take these bold leaps like Vertical, it's getting an audience out there, and I'm intrigued to see, how it's going to play.
Sure. Just so you know, my father is a Shakespeare scholar before he became an
Wow.
ambassador, and his book is named from one of the lines, as you know, from the play
Very well.
itself. Words, words, words. And
Fantastic.
talk about those words to me, please. What have you learned about writing and communication through making this film and the magic of Shakespeare 460 years later?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's an interesting question. Well, I think what's interesting to think about is how when I was first sent the idea of coming on board this film, I had a kind of gut reaction that made me think, okay, this is crazy. I'm not the guy for this. And I think it's a lot about the conditioning uh, with which Shakespeare is kind of treated. There's a lot of school kids like me who leave school thinking, okay, I don't get Shakespeare enough. I'm not intellectual enough. I'm not smart enough. The language is too complex. But actually, what I've learned is it's not really the language. It's just the way we're conditioned to think about it. It's the way that Shakespeare feels like it's a part of culture that's protected for the elite and that isn't for everyone, etc. And so when Riz sent me this, and I thought, oh God, my relationship with Shakespeare is complicated. It feels kind of flawed. Um, and then I start reading this text, having had probably quite a lot of distance from it, and I'm surprised by how kind of effortless and beautiful it is, but also how kind of ti timeless and relevant and personal all these issues feel. So I think there's a problem with how Shakespeare is kind of feels like it's owned, rather than a problem with the material itself, which is actually, yeah, timeless and universal, really. But yeah, it was intimidating to kind of like uh, find my way into this new language. I'd come up making very, very overtly contemporary films, often with semi-improvised kind of dialogue, actually. So, about as unprecise and unformal a kind of dialogue as you could. So obviously it felt like a huge shift coming into something where it's so precise and so set. But um yeah, I've gone on a real journey with it, and it's they're such beautiful words, and what we wanted to do was find a way of capturing them, performing them, filming them that took that kind of starch and that kind of stiffness and formality that we always kind of associate with them, that kind of stripped it away and made it kind of lived in and made it human and made it conversational, I suppose.
Can you explain? Because I was trying to track that while watching. I had the play with me while watching the screener. So tell me, what would you say how much was moved around, adjusted, cut? Because it would be even longer if it was the full play, right?
Yeah, completely. Well, I mean, the famously the full play is very long. Ends up running anywhere from kind of 3.5 to 4.5 hours or something. That's a lot of film to make in this day and age, on indie budget. So
And
it's
TikTok
certainly
world, right? Yeah.
completely, yeah, exactly. Even if you've got the money, has the audience got the attention? So yeah, but we made one big call quite early on, which was that, as you all know from Hamlet, he's the main character, obviously, and there's a lot of him. But actually, there's a lot where he's actually off screen, off stage as well, and other people come on and discuss what
So
he's
you
doing.
centered him more, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or they discuss what he might do next. Then he comes
Mhm.
back on. A big call we made early on was we stripped all of that away.
Mhm.
We said, okay, if Hamlet's not experiencing it, then nor are we, and we lean into all the kind of ambiguity and kind of chaos that might bring.
Mhm.
Um, in many ways, it was a kind of quite practical way of just culling a lot of scenes.
Yeah,
It's not something we could, and then we also started to strip away characters.
yeah.
Horatio, his kind of best friend, is not there. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. He's kind of quite an isolated, kind of singular kind of Hamlet. It's not something we could have done easily if we didn't have the screenwriter Mike Leslie, who's just such a talented writer and has such a kind of deep and kind of like ingrained understanding of the play that we could start to play with this thing, cut things, repurpose things, redistribute things. Yeah.
I'm going to lose you in a
Sorry.
minute. So rapid fire. Tell me about Art Malik.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a complete hero. Riz talks amazingly about working with him. He says he's the only reason that Riz could be there having this career, thanks to Art Malik.
Amazing.
Seminal South Asian actor, yeah, and such a joy to work with.
And your Oscar win from the short film, what did that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge honor. Completely blindsided it really. You don't really set off making a
No.
low budget British short thinking, you're gonna end up at the Oscars, but it just took on this kind of life of its own, and it was a really beautiful experience. Yeah.
And last thing, I believe that showing Riz Ahmed able to play Hamlet means he has a shot at playing another famous international character. What is your thought on that?
Well, I think everyone should go and watch Bait, his Amazon show, which asks that question in a much more fun way than I'd answer it probably.
All right. Well, we wish you the very best and look forward to your movie doing its debut here in the United States.
Me too. Thanks, Sree. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Take care.